Last time we talked about a show from spring 2024 that got pretty popular, but ultimately I don't really think lived up to the hype. And unfortunately today we're basically doing the same thing, but instead with Windbreaker, a show that probably didn't get as big as Kaiju number 8, or certainly as talked about, but was definitely up there pretty consistently in discussions regarding new shows to watch from spring 2024. It certainly is not worth the level of discussion and prominence that it seems to have gotten. This is a show that I think really struggles in terms of its pacing. It starts off all right, has a couple episodes to set up the world and try to establish what we should expect going forward, but then kind of throws us headfirst into this tournament arc that starts very quickly and is with a bunch of characters that we don't know because the show has just started. And obviously we're supposed to care about these fights, but we really have no reason to because the show did not give us the time to know these characters, to really know the world well enough. And then most of the show is that tournament arc, only for the last few episodes to kind of go back to what we were doing in the beginning of the show, which raises the question of why didn't you have those world building episodes that are at the end in the beginning? Like, wouldn't the show have been better paced if maybe the first half was all of this world building and then little by little you hinted at this big conflict coming, and then the last half of the show was that conflict instead of having a little bit of world building at the beginning, getting the tournament arc, and then going back to it? It just feels very strangely structured. And ultimately that tournament arc that we should care so much about because it takes up so much of the show is honestly just incredibly slow, boring, and uninteresting. And the show tries to sort of remedy the obvious problem here, which again is that we do not know these characters. We do not have a reason to care about these fights that are going on, by way of giving us flashbacks to say, okay, these two characters from these two rival gangs, they're fighting right now, but they have some sort of history in the past and they knew each other and they had a falling out and blah, 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 right? But when you only give us, 5 minutes of backstory to explain these two characters and what exactly their deal is, that's not enough, right? Like, it's something, it's better than nothing. At least I can sort of understand where these characters are coming from, what they're trying to iron out between them, so to speak, having a conversation with their fists, as the show likes to preach. But that's just not enough, right? Like, if we had known these characters and at the very least had gotten to know the characters on Windbreaker side, right? If we had gotten to know at least the fighters there better in like the first half of the show before going into this tournament arc, at least like one of the characters you already have a reason to care about. But when you don't care about either one, the character on the Windbreaker side and the character on the other gang side, why should I want to watch this? Why should I care? Because you're not giving me enough of a reason to care. And it's not just one of the fights that's like this, it's all 5 of them. They're all the same. They're not interesting. There's nothing making me want to watch it, and it ends up turning the entire arc, more than half of the show, into a slog. That's not good. That's awful. You should not want to do that. So I'm baffled at the decision to structure the show in that fashion. It doesn't make sense to me. It really does not. And while I don't think rearranging it would have fixed all the problems, at least if we had had additional time to get to know the characters on the Windbreaker side and got to know the world a bit better, at least then I would have given a little bit more of a crap about what was going on in these fights if they had happened at the end of the show. Instead, we're just thrown into it immediately, and then I have no reason to care about any of it while it's going on. None of it whatsoever. The only thing that is somewhat interesting during the tournament arc is the fight choreography. And look, some people are going to say that's enough. They just want to see people beating each other up, and that's enough to justify watching the show. And great, if that's all you need, perfect, you will like this show. Because I will say, the fight choreography, by and large, is good. Usually it is not too fast, usually it's not too ridiculous, even though yes, sometimes the characters are doing things that don't make sense, that really are not intelligent things to be doing in a fight, or just completely unrealistic. But every now and then, hey, they'll throw in some actual martial arts, and at the very least it'll look nice, right? It's generally, for the most part, easy to follow fighting. If that is enough for you, great. But I don't think it will be for most people. Like, if that's the only positive I can point to during that entire arc, then basically what I'm trying to say is more than half of the show is kind of unwatchable. That's not what you want to hear. And I get it, this is a show about gangs, about fighting. Of course, that's what's going to happen, but my God, there have to be better ways to go about it than this. I mean, to give us basically no time to know these characters, even on the protagonist side, even on Sakura's side. I mean, we barely even know Sakura. We at least get, okay, he's a tsundere. We at least kind of get an idea of him, but even then, I don't give a crap about him during his fight in the tournament arc. I don't really give a crap about him by the end of the show, or any of the characters. It feels like something that could have very easily been mitigated if somebody knew what they were doing. And I just kind of question, how did the show end up getting structured and put together in this way? Because it just doesn't make sense. But anyway, what else is going on in this show? Honestly, just kind of questionable things. Like, I keep talking about how it would have been better if we had some of that world building put to the front. And it would have been better if we had started off with all of that first. But the world building that we get baffles me, because these characters, they all attend this school. But it's not really a school when you look at it, when you peek behind the curtains, because every time we're there, even though they are in classrooms and they have sort of that, Japanese school structure to an extent, they have class representatives and everything, there are no adults in this school that we can see. There are no teachers, there's no staff. The school just appears to be run by the gang, and the leader of the gang is basically running the school. So really, they're not in a school. They're basically just using a school building. And granted, it at least looks better than the school building that the other gang is using, because that basically just looks like an abandoned building that they took over. But they're really not in school, and yet the show presents it as though they are, like they're attending an actual high school, but they're not. So what exactly is going on? Why are we treating this like it's a school? I mean, I guess it's not. They're just people of high school age who are in a gang who are using this school. But why would anybody let their kid go to this school when it's not really a school? And if it is a school, why is it being structured this way? I feel like it doesn't make sense to do this, because you could just have the characters on both sides and both of the gangs we see just be in gangs. Why does it need to be a gang that's sort of a school but not really a school? Just have them be in gangs. That seems like such an obvious thing. But I mean, I guess, you gotta have them in school because that'll appeal to the shonen demographic, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you'd really lose that many people by having them just be in gangs, but whatever. It's not even you'd lose the uniforms. Not really. Not really. You could just have them have gang uniforms. I mean, it feels very strange to have them be in school but not have it be a school, because then what's even the point? I mean, if you really want them to use the school building as just an abandoned building they commandeer and make use of, okay, but say that then? I don't know. It's very strange. It is very, very weird. And you would think in a world where this city has so many delinquents and miscreants and unsavory people running around causing trouble, and this gang has basically become the pseudo police force to keep the peace, and all the people in the city really like them and admire them and look up to them. Okay, but are they really going to just let this school be run by the gang? Or I guess I shouldn't be overthinking this. I should probably just be turning my brain off and not caring. And to an extent, I can put aside the idea that things are so bad here, and they really don't seem to be, but things are so bad that the gang has to keep the peace. And sure, I can turn my brain off and accept that, but there's just a little bit too much the show is expecting me to be on board with. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Plenty of people can look at that and say, I don't care, I can turn my brain off, that doesn't matter, and that's great. But it results in this situation where even though I appreciate the world building episodes more than the tournament arc episodes, I still feel like the world building is very lacking. So even if all we did was rearrange some stuff somehow, I still don't think that would fix the show, because there'd be these other issues seeping through it all. And as I said, just looking at the characters themselves, I really feel like I don't know that much or have any reason to care about any of them. I mean, even the main character, Sakura, his entire personality is basically that he is a tsundere, and that is either going to be fine with you or is going to really get on your nerves really quickly. That's basically all he is, and maybe he'll become more. We don't really see a lot of evidence of that over the course of the first season, but maybe in season 2 that'll change or beyond, because this does have a season 2 already confirmed, so clearly it did well enough to justify that, getting a second season announced right as it ended. But man, it really does baffle me as to why a show like this got this popular, other than, hey, well choreographed fight scenes. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all people are going to care about, because other than that, I am genuinely really struggling to find something that I can say is good about this show. And it's not the absolute worst thing to watch. I don't want to make it seem like this is an irredeemable, awful experience, but it is lacking. It is very boring, and it is a struggle to sit through the 13 episodes we already have. And it's just one of those shows where there are just so many things that are not handled well here that I scratch my head and think, how did this get as big as it did? And so, with all that said, what do you think about Windbreaker? Am I just completely off base? Am I just unable to enjoy a show where you should just turn your brain off and enjoy the fighting and not really think about it too much? Maybe I am. I don't know. You tell me in the comments down below. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and until next time, take care everyone. Look forward to the next video.